All right, everybody, welcome back. We are going to be doing a relic farming guide because a lot of things have changed. I'm going to go ahead and give you some updates on things that have changed regarding farming, signal data, relic mats, gear, those types of things with this huge update that we got. And then we can go ahead and take a look at a graphic that I got for all of you that kind of breaks down what to farm and where to farm it. Well, not so much where to farm it. It'll probably be no, it does. Yeah. What currency to use farming it anyways. But before we get into all that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, please. It helps me out a lot. Leave any comments down below if I miss anything, or if you have any questions about something, about a currency or where to farm something. I'm going to hopefully try to cover everything in this video, but it is possible that I might miss something. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into some of the changes that we've gotten regarding where to farm signal data. Signal data is probably the most important thing, given that it's like the one true bottleneck above all other things, really. So we got a couple of sources of new signal data. The first one, and the one that everybody's going to kind of really experience for the most part, is the episode track. So they removed gear, well, certain pieces of gear at least, from the episode track. It was usually those boxes that gave you a bunch of blue gear or some core gear or some things like that. But essentially on tier 11, they gave you 75 fragmented signal data. You can't see it here because I've already collected it, but that's pretty early on. And then if we scroll down, and just to be clear, this is on the free track, not the paid track. The paid track didn't get any more signal data. I wish, but it kind of did in a weird way. I'll get into that a little bit, but this is the free track. Just keep scrolling down, and then 65 of the incomplete signal data on tier 35. And then we scrolled down a little bit farther and we got 15 paltry, 15, but it's still something, 15 flawed signal data on level 44 or tier 44. Now, it should be noted that the free track is completable by all free-to-play people, given that they do their dailies, do their quests, do all the things that they need to be doing in order to complete it. But you should be able to go all the way to the end and get this bonus reward box about, I think it's 8 or so times. So that is the first place that we're getting more signal data. What is that? 80 plus 75, 155 extra signal data just from the free track. Then the second place that we got increased signal data is in shipments, also related to the episode pass, is the episode shipments. They now contain, as you can see here, packs of fragmented signal data in 45 quantities and incomplete signal data in quantities of 54. Now, I believe these are 100 respectively, so these are 4,500 and 5,400. Now that is pretty substantial. I believe free to play in the free track, you get about 4,000 or 45,000, 43,000 or 45,000, and then maybe some odd ones from the extra credits at the end. But essentially, if you're putting 9,900 or 9,900 episode currency into that every week, because this refreshes weekly, some of you won't have it yet, but that's going to be about 40,000 episode currency per month that you're sinking into signal data. On the flip side, you are getting an extra 396 signal data though. However, that's going to hinder your ability to farm Omicrons. So you are going to have to make a choice if you're free to play on what to farm more. Omicrons can definitely change the way that you play the game with the teams that you get. But you typically need those teams relic too. So kind of a little bit of a trade-off here. It's a hard one, but that being said, because of that, I wouldn't any longer farm any of the other stuff because signal data is definitely the most important. Omicrons being about maybe equal potentially, depending on where you are in the game. If you already have enough Omicrons, then signal data is going to be the one you go for. If you're hurting for both, then you'll have to make a decision and split it. But in no case should you be farming anything else, including mod materials. I know a lot of people will scream about that, but you shouldn't be farming mod materials over signal data and Omicrons, in my opinion. So those are the two big places. I plug this into our previous signal data calculator that I made for you all. If we go ahead and go over and check that out, we can see that I've included it right here. We have the episode track and all those quantities, as well as the episode shipments and the frequency which with they fall. This gives us about 551 extra signal data, I think. Did I do that right? 4, 5? Yeah, about 551 extra signal data, which is huge for those people that are able to take full advantage of it, depending on how you allocate your episode shipments. It's definitely going to make relicing things easier. Obviously, we don't get a whole ton of flawed, so Relics 5 or Cantina, Relics 5 and up is going to be a little bit still strenuous to farm. But when you weren't farming flawed signal data, you had to farm the other signal data. Now you just don't have to do as much of that, so you're going to have more time to devote to flawed signal data. So even though they didn't give you any, in a way, they're still giving you some to help out that crunch. So they did promise to make relicing easier, and I think with 551 extra signal data, they really have. You can go ahead and use this calculator. It's down in the description below, as well as a couple other things that we're going to be covering today. But this goes over how to calculate how much signal data you get per month. It's really a nifty tool, and it also has a breakdown regarding the signal data cash pack, which I believe might be in the shop if it didn't just leave. I did buy it. I got another jackpot, followed by some carbonite circuit boards and some bronzium wirings, but I was really happy with the jackpot. Anyways, this is the pack I highly recommend. If you get the worst possible options, being the 100 carbonite circuit boards and bronzium wirings, or the electrum conductors and Aurodium heat sinks, you still get basically an 8% discount on signal data if you are buying it with crystals. If not, then you're going to go ahead and get a huge discount when you get the extra signal data, or you get something crazy like all of this. But this is not a signal data video. It's just to go ahead and tell you where you should farm stuff. The calendar could be in the store. I don't think it's in the store, but this is essentially the breakdown if the calendar ends up in the store. Anyways, moving on from signal data, let's go ahead and go back to the game. Another thing that has changed drastically in farming is the moving of different raid things. So different relic mats got moved to different raid currencies. We'll go ahead and get down below that. Number one is we'll cover corrupted signal data later. The big changes are that Zinbiddle data cards and electrum conductors. I realize they're not called Zinbiddle data cards, just cards. I don't know where I got data cards from, but nonetheless, Zinbiddle cards and electrum conductors are now in Mk2 instead of where they were at with Mk3. Previously, we wouldn't really spend Mk3 on Zinbiddle cards and electrum conductors. Some people would, but wasn't technically the most efficient. But you would spend Mk2 on gear and then translate that gear into Zinbiddle cards. Now you don't have to, and it's way more efficient to just buy them outright with Mk2. They also lowered the prices and increased the quantity. So win, 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 essentially. So before we could only buy 5, now we can buy 10 per week, and they're cheaper. They're only 100 Mk2 a piece, whereas they used to be 125 Mk3 a piece. Just a drastic discount. And then electrum conductors are also at 10, where they used to be available only 5, and now they are 75 Mk2 a piece, which previously they were 100 Mk3. So drastic reduction in cost. I know that's going to hurt some people and the way they used to farm and churning different things. Some people would use Mk3 for these things because they didn't need Relic 8 materials yet, because they were a newer account. But overall, this is going to help you a lot more. So this is where you would farm Zinbiddle cards and electrum conductors from now on. Another change they made is that the lower relic materials, such as Aurodium heat sinks, transistors, bronzium wiring, and carbonite circuit board, are all available for Mk1. Previously, they were available for, I think, Mk2 and astronomically priced. You wouldn't do it. It was a really bad deal. Now they're pretty well priced. However, you still don't need to do it. So let me explain a little bit about that. Aurodium heat sinks are essentially 55 Mk1 per Aurodium heat sink when you do it like this. So 550 divided by 10, 55, right? Well, if you go down all the way down here, you get to the gear, and you can find sometimes, depending on what they refresh. Let's see if we have any of them available. Not the Mk4 CNR hollow projectors, but the Mk3 ones. Here we go. You buy these and then you craft them into full pieces, and that gets you Aurodium heat sinks for 52 Mk1 a piece. but you have to craft them into full pieces before you translate them into Aurodium heat sinks. And you also have to constantly look here to see if they refreshed. So this is kind of a weird situation where Aurodium heat sinks are available up here for a little bit more, 3 Mk1 per Aurodium heat sink. But in this case, I actually suggest buying these rather than going and hunting down the Mk3. If you absolutely want to be the most efficient, you can go down there and hunt for Mk3 Sienna Harlow projectors. But for the sake of ease, this could be a lot easier to buy them when you need them. They're always going to be available here in quantities of 25. So you should be able to, any given week that the raid comes, you should be able to go ahead and stock up. Now, chromium transistors, you definitely do not want to buy here. Those are bought in a different location that I'll cover later. Bronzium wirings you can buy here if for some reason you just can't seem to get them farmed. I know a lot of people have a problem. Obviously, I do not, but they are more accessible using a different currency that you don't need to spend here. Now, carbonite circuit boards can be hard for a lot of people to get. This is not a bad deal by any means, but I find that it's easier to farm them through a different means as well. But they're perfectly okay to be bought here, and I'll cover where I think you should farm those a little bit later. So then we go into some other changes that also hit the raid, and this is namely that corrupted signal data is not only scavengerable, but they also made it here available for Mk3. So given the steep price of corrupted signal data through the Jawa scavenger, you should not be transitioning all your other signal data into corrupted signal data. Do not do that. It is way too valuable to waste on corrupted signal data, especially for an R10 upgrade. Save up your Mk3, and if you absolutely need corrupted signal data, buy it here. But again, this is only a Relic 10 material. I don't expect most of the community to have to use this at all really until much later, or we get a first requirement. But if you're going to do it through Mk3. Please do not spend all your hard-earned valuable signal data on it. I don't think anybody's overflowing with signal data sufficient to go ahead and make that decision. Now we have another thing that we want to cover, which is kind of the the big elephant in the room, and that has to do with the new shop era shipments. Here we have coaxial servomotors, which are the Relic 10 material alongside corrupted signal data that you need. And we also have a thing that we didn't know we were getting, which is these Aurodium Lightspeed tokens, which give you a Relic 5 6-star character. Pretty nice. If you don't have enough to buy those though, you might buy the Carbonite Lightspeed token, but this is really for new players that get some value out of having a 3-star Gear 12 character. For a lot of people, they just won't do that, so they might save up for the Aurodium one and get a Relic 5 character at 6 stars instead. Now, obviously these things are going to change probably, or maybe they won't change, and they're the same for all legacy characters. I just don't have that many characters available to use them on, but nonetheless, this is an option. However, the currency is very hard to get, so I made a calculator to go over how you can get that and how you can track that to see how much you're getting per era, right? So let's go ahead and go over to the spreadsheets, not this one, but the next one. Again, this is down in the description below for you to utilize. Now, essentially we get era currency from 2 places. One is your total era levels throughout the entire era. So should have probably covered this before, but let's bounce back over to the game, show you where that's recorded. Right, so if you go here, you go to the character, big marquee thing sitting in the middle, click on the character, or never mind. This was the wrong way to do it. I forgot. I'm still new to all this. Go to the collection, and it's the top tab, and it's right here where it shows all the characters. You can click right here. You see I leveled up, so I got one, I think. And we go ahead and click into this thing somewhere. There it goes. One of these is a button, I know that, but this gives you 10 era currency based on each threshold you get to. Now, you might think it's every level. I thought it was initially every level 2. That's where I got kind of confused in my previous Coliseum video where I went over this. It's actually not every level. It's only every level for the first 20 levels. Then it goes to every 2 levels, and then it goes to every 5 levels later on. And then eventually it starts moving differently too. I think it's every 5 levels, but on every 100 you'll get 100 currency. And then after like level 400, conveniently, because free to play stops at 390, then you start earning 20 era currency. And then we scroll all the way down, and then it's 30, and then the really big spenders up here will get to the top and the very, very tippity toppity end, and they'll get 4,000 extra era currency on top of these 200s for these thresholds, and so on and so forth. Anyways, that's the first place that you earn it for your total era levels. The second place that you earn it is going to be in the Coliseum, and that's going to be your daily rank. Now, for those of you who are unaware, there's a glitch currently. Hopefully they'll fix it pretty soon here, but essentially every day that Coliseum comes up with the new boss, you want to make sure that the first thing you do when you open the screen is not fight the boss. Go to the leaderboard and collect your payout. If you do not collect your payout and then you go ahead and click your battle here, it's going to give you a new rank and it's going to erase your payout. It's stupid. It should have been easily play tested. They didn't catch it. They still haven't done anything about it. So go ahead and make sure that you collect your payout. Although I'm seeing this days ago, maybe they put a thing in here to collect it. I don't know. I don't remember seeing that, but maybe it was there. Anyways, make sure you go ahead and go to the leaderboards first thing when you click Coliseum. Do not fight the boss before you do that. Anyways, the rank rewards are given based on your positioning. So it's going to change throughout the season probably, depending on whether or not you spend. But if you're free to play, you're probably going to be somewhere in this area. I think if there's anybody out there that's above 1,000, let me know. I haven't seen anybody yet, but if you're above rank 1,000, go ahead and put what rank you are down in the comment section below. I mean, hell, you can share all your ranks right now, regardless of what rank you are, but I'm particularly interested to see if there's anybody above 1,000. Because this is obviously the lowest you could get. Anyways, so these are the two places that you'll get it. Most people are not going to get a whole lot of this currency, so buying Coaxial Servomotors and Aurodium Lightspeed tokens might be out of reach for most, including myself for the most part. Let's go ahead and go back over to the spreadsheet to see what this all looks like. So when you use this calculator, you want to go ahead and insert your total era levels that you plan on having for the season, or that you currently have for the season, whichever way you want to use it. But free to play will at least have 390, that's 6 marquees, all at level 65. Okay. Keep in mind, this does include the journey guide unit, which is Spider Legs Mall, or whatever they called him. I can't remember. But we'll call him Spider Legs Mall for now. The air level of that journey guide character is included. Now, free to play won't have him because we only get it at 3 stars, not 4 stars for free to play. But if you do have him, you will add that air level on here and you'll get some extra rewards. So go ahead and insert that number. And then also you have your rank, which you can record down here. So this number, if this is not equal to 84, there's 84 days in an era season. If it's not equal to 84, it'll highlight red, which tells you have too much going on here. But if you do put it so that it's equal to 84, I got 61 to 90 for like 4 days. And I'm probably going to be at 91 to 250 for the rest of the time. Or if I sink lower, I might sink lower because I'm not investing in any other characters. But this is going to go ahead and calculate how much era currency you're going to get based off the rewards for that position. And it's going to tell you the total at the bottom. This should say era currency. I don't know why it says crystal. I know why it says crystals, but it should say currency. Fixing it live. And then this is also wrong. So one moment here, should be 13. There we go. Okay, so now it's correct. So that's the total you're gonna get for your rankings for the entire 84 days. Make sure you spend it before the season's over though, because it will transition to credits afterward, I believe. Now you also get another little nifty reward depending on whether or not you go into the highest tiers. I believe tier 6 and above has a little tiny payout depending on which tier you reach. But it's nothing too major, but that would go here. You would adjust your tier, your highest tier that you got here, and that will adjust down here what you should get. But unless you're tier 6, it doesn't even matter, honestly. So total air currency per era, I'm looking at getting 10,080. This is going to automatically calculate how much I'm able to get of the coaxial servomotors. So that's pretty nice. It's automatically calculated for you. So after 3 months, I'll be able to get 14, which is not enough to get a Relic 10 character. I will have to wait till next era to get enough for a Relic 10 character, which is exactly why I suggest everybody save their Relic 10 materials. It is not worth it to upgrade anything right now. Save it for a requirement. Also, if you have this much and maybe you don't care about Relic 10 and it's so far off that there's no reason to go ahead and get those materials, you can go ahead and get Aurodium Lightspeed tokens with it. So that's going to be pretty useful for new accounts and even mid accounts that need anything at Relic 5. 6 stars, that's going to be pretty great. And if you're really new and you just be better off having some Gear 12 characters for some requirements or something, then you can get up to 10 Carbonite Lightspeed tokens. Now, obviously this is going to change depending on what rank you are and what rank you can maintain, as well as if you can spend a little more and get some more eras. But again, if maybe you're scoring way higher this and you can put, you know, a bigger number in here, and that's going to get you a whole lot more here. So it's usable for all ranks. You can go ahead and figure out how much you get. Now, don't worry about anything over here. This is just helping calculate stuff. But yeah, hopefully you get some use out of this video. Make sure you go ahead and let me know in the comment section if you did get use out of this. And yeah, tell me if there's anything that it's missing that you would like to see, and maybe I can work to improve that. So that covers most of the stuff regarding the signal data, the raid changes, the era. Now I want to kind of explain where to go ahead and get a lot of the things that are covered in the graphic that I made. You can find that down below. Essentially, that is going to give you a little bit of a cheat sheet on how to get everything that we've discussed for relic farming. Let me see if I can go ahead and pull this up right there. Go back over here. So this is my relic farming guide. It's going to go ahead and go over all of the currencies that you can go ahead and spend. So raid right here. Is my mouse actually showing on here? Whoa, zoom out, buddy. Okay. So raid 1, you're primarily going to farm omegas. I know this is not necessarily relics, but I think abilities are important here too. The reason why I say farm omegas, if you're having a problem with omegas, that is because they're not in a different spot. And I mean, I think it's good value. I personally haven't completed omegas yet. So if I haven't completed them, I'm guessing most people haven't completed them. And I'll show you where you can go ahead and get them, because they're not actually in the raid store, weirdly. They're in the weekly shipment store, which is over here. I'll show you where they land. Right here. So they're in this slot and they refresh weekly. You can only buy 5 and they're 825 raid 1 tokens, I believe. So going back over to the relic farming guide, the second thing you want to go ahead and buy is those Sienna hollow projectors that I talked about, because it's technically the cheapest way to get Aurodium heat sinks. But if you want to buy Aurodium heat sinks outright, that's perfectly fine. And if you're having a problem with carbonite circuit boards, you can go ahead and spend right there to buy it. Do not buy bronzium wirings here. That's my suggestion. Obviously you can do what you want, but there's a different way to get bronzium wirings. So Mk2, the number one thing you want to buy is electriums, and then number 2 is inbittles. Those are kind of interchangeable. You can buy whichever one in whatever order as you need them, but they're both really efficient to buy there. Personally, I'm going to buy both of them every time they show up. Number 3 is after you've done that, or if you're really in the need for gear to keypads, you want to be farming this gear 12 material specifically. It's the furnaces, the stun guns, and the data pads, which convert into gear to keypads. This is number 1 source for gear to keypads. Okay. Then raid 3 currency, you have limited options now because there's no more Zinbittle cards and Electrium conductors. You're going to go ahead and spend this primarily on arrow magnifiers first. Secondarily, you'll go ahead and get impulse detectors. But there's another location to get impulse detectors that you want to exhaust first, and then you can kind of come back and get them from Mk3 after you have enough arrow magnifiers to satisfy Relic 8 requirements. Or Relic 9. Yeah, they're going to be usable at Relic 8, 9, 10 now. Corrupted signal data, again, if you absolutely need Relic 10 or you feel there's a reason, if it's required later on, do not get it from the scavenger. You'll go ahead and just pick it up with Mk3 as well. But this shouldn't be a priority for most people. Farm it when you need it, or keep Mk3 stock so that if it comes up you can get it, but I wouldn't go about just stockpiling it, because I think there's a little chance that it's like you're going to need large quantities of it at any given time. So I also think it'll probably get some, it'll be in a reward for some event, so we're probably going to get it naturally some other way. It might take a while, but just like droid brains eventually work their way into event rewards, it's probably the same thing's going to happen. So then we have the guild currencies. So the first one is the guild tokens. These are the ones that are at the top, and this is how you're going to get bronzium wiring primarily. This is the, don't use it on anything that's not on this guide, okay? So if you don't use it for anything else, you should be able to kind of keep pace with this. You should kind of be able to, this is sustainable, as it were. So you get as much of this as you can, you spend it on bronzium wirings and even chromium transistors. So what you're looking for is these pieces. These are the blue and green Mk4 through 6 materials, not Mk3, not Mk2, not Mk7, that will show up. Well, kind of Mk7 in this one, but for the bronzium wiring specifically, it's Mk4, 5, and 6, blues and greens only. Okay, not purples, blues and greens only. But if you get enough of those pieces, that's how I got to 6,000 bronziums. And you can also see that I have a ton in stock. If you see my other videos, I've showed this off numerous times, but we'll go ahead and show it over here for posterity. Got a ton of this stuff, and you can see how much I have stocked up as well, right? This stuff comes in often enough, and you get those tokens every day from guild activities that you shouldn't have any problems getting that. The same is true over here for chromium transistors, and this one single piece right here, the Mk7 Blast Tech weapon mod. It shows up in the same spots, and you're going to go ahead and use that to transition over to chromium transistors as you need them. But you probably won't need enough. You should never have an issue where you need chromium transistors from anything else if you're using this method and checking the refreshes every day. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you where those spawn exactly, because it's only in 3 slots in the shop. So you go to shipments, you go to guild activity, and it's these last 3 slots right here. I know there's a purple in there right now, but sometimes it'll be the Mk4, 5, 6 blues and greens, right? So I'll go ahead and pick this up. Do not buy the Mk2, do not buy the Mk3, but check these 3 slots right before the character shards every single shipment, and you'll never have bronzium and chromium transistor problems again. And you can see I've had 42,000 for basically ever. So ever since I started farming them, that is. I used to have more, but I was farming other things like up here too when I was trying to finish all my gear 12s, but nonetheless, anyways, going back to the chart. So we have get one. This is the GET1 currency right here. You get this from territory battles. The primary use of this now is going to be solely med packs, Mk12 med packs, multi-tools, and bayonets. Show you where those spawn as well. We go over there, and the reason is because the gear transfers into impulse detectors at a much better rate than it does for other things that transfer into arrow magnifiers, such as the tactical data. So those pieces spawn right here, the first 4 slots of Mk1 gear, right? So you can check those and buy those. I have some Mk1, so I'm gonna go ahead and buy the multi-tools, and I'm gonna buy the med packs, right? And you just check that anytime you get Mk1. Now, just to kind of go into a little bit of the reasoning, we go over to the scavenger, right? And we go to impulses. So it takes about 11 of these pieces to get an impulse detector, right? Whereas the tactical data that you can buy for arrow magnifiers, it takes a lot more. Look at all this, right? We keep clicking. It takes about 20 pieces. So it's a much worse rate trying to get data, trying to get gear to transfer into arrow magnifiers than it is to get impulse detectors. And on top of that, if you look at where you can get arrow magnifiers from, they're cheaper with Mk3 than the impulse detectors. So buy the impulse detectors elsewhere, buy the arrow magnifiers here, and then once you've exhausted your get one, you can go ahead and get impulse detectors a different way. And then you can go ahead and get Mk3. So Next in line would be Get 2 or GET2. You also get from territory battles. I think you get it from territory wars too, possibly. But the primary use is going to be getting Chirotechs, which transfer then into either droid brains or arrow magnifiers as you need them, right? You only need your droid brains if you're doing Relic 9, Relic 10 stuff. Arrow magnifiers are Relic 8, 9, and 10. So that's going to be primarily where you get that. The reason that you're doing the Chirotechs here is because I'll go show you in the shop where they spawn, and also the rate, which is why we're doing it. So for guild or GET2, Chirotechs are absolutely the cheapest. So that's why you buy them with MK or Get 2. Buy those every time you see them. Those are going to be your droid brains and your arrow magnifiers. Ignore all this gear unless you absolutely are in hurt for gear to keypads or something, but don't be spending this for things like Zin Biddle cards. Definitely spend your MK3 for that. Anyways, going back over there. So GET3, also through territory battles and territory wars, the first thing you're going to do is spend it on air impulse detectors. Now, if you have impulse detectors enough from the Get 1, or you're just not finding impulse detectors and you're running kind of high up towards the limit, then you can go ahead and buy the Chirotechs and go ahead and get more arrow magnifiers and droid brains. I'll go ahead and show you the MK3 or the Get 3 side. Get 3 is a little bit higher up here. You got the Chirotechs right here, but the place that the impulse detectors is going to spawn is always right next to the ship shards. Now, this could be any of the relic mats that spawn here. It could be gear to keypads, electron conductors, and biddle data cards, impulse detectors. But you're only going to want to buy the impulse detectors. I found that I think that's the best place and that's the best rate for them. Go ahead and buy them there. But sometimes you can go weeks without getting them. I've had that happen to me. So in that case, I would spend extra Get 3 before I hit the limit up here, which is 20,000. I would go ahead and buy Chirotechs. So going back over to the chart. After you exhaust those two places, the Get 1 and the Get 3 for impulse detectors, and you still need them, then you can go ahead and buy them with MK3. Okay. And that could happen because you can only get like 27 impulse detectors, I think, from Get 1 on a 2-week basis. So you might have a lot of need for impulse detectors more than that. Next, we're going to go ahead and cover other tokens real quick. I'm going to do this in a little bit of a reverse order just because I'll cover energy last, essentially. Episode currency, we already kind of covered a little bit. You're primarily going to want to be buying signal data. The incomplete is harder to get through normal farming of Cantina Energy. So that's why you want to buy it when you can, over other different types. So go ahead and buy the incomplete signal data first if you're hurting. If you're just going to buy them both, then it doesn't matter, but go ahead and buy the fragmented signal data. And then Omicrons on an as needed basis, you would buy those too. There does reach a point where you have kind of all the Omicrons you need for GAC, and maybe you don't even care about territory war. A little bit of a side note, territory war is greatly diminished in value these days because its droid brains was the main draw. Droid brains and a little bit on arrow magnifiers, but that was the main draw, and now those are available for Chirotechs, which are pretty plentiful. So just a really quick kind of comparison. Essentially, if you're at the top tier of territory war and you're winning instead of losing, you're getting about 140 more Chirotechs. That's pretty much what it translates to, besides the Datacron stuff. But if you don't use that anyway, then it's basically 140 Chirotechs. Do what you will. If you enjoy territory war, more power to you. I'm just saying that now droid brains are a little bit of a diminished value because of the recipes that you can go ahead and scavenge them for. So that being said, going on to the other currencies, legend tokens, you get these for having GLs. They come after every conquest. There's like 1 day's worth. I think you can get another one if you have a conquest pass or something. But essentially you want to use those legend tokens on fragmented signal data. A lot of people use them on Omicrons first. That's okay, realistically. There's only 4 refreshes a month, and they only cost 100 for 5 pieces of fragmented signal data. So it's not even a lot. And you usually are going to have some leftover legend tokens anyway. So I just always make sure that I have 400 available. That way I'm good until next month to buy the signal data. Signal data really comes at a premium, But if you don't want to buy that and you just want to buy the Omicrons, more power to you, but you shouldn't buy anything else in that shop really. It's not worth it. You would be better off just buying it with crystals. That's how bad it is. And do not refresh the Legends token shop. It's not worth it. So, or like those legend events, don't refresh them. It's not worth it. And then you have the Conquest Credits, which a lot of people will use for the newest shards. Definitely do that if you want to be like a new adopter, if you want to have that character immediately. But for those of you who want to wait and do it over, you know, more conquests, like Jocasta Nu, for example, is a good example. You weren't going to use her immediately, probably because of the character she was associated with. The same was true for SM33 and Maz Kanata. So I kind of waited. I had extra conquest credits. Whoa, tongue twister. Anyways, so I was buying every single piece of incomplete signal data and flawed signal data that I could get my hands on. Signal data is more important than shards in a lot of cases. So you're going to get the character as long as you're not going to proving grounds, get it in 6 conquests and load up on signal data. That's going to grow your account way more than having the new conquest character immediately. Just a little tip there. Anyways, moving on to fleet currency, there's only one thing you should buy after the shards. And I guess that's a disclaimer for all of this. Like, knock out the character shards with any of this that you need first so that you can start unlocking the character. You never know when you're going to need that character. You want to have it farmed up. So all this stuff kind of comes secondary to getting the shards that you need. Obviously, you'll have to move things around a little bit when you're working towards requirements for a particular character, like a GL or something. But in general, go ahead and knock out the shards for characters, and then after that, you'll be on farm mode, and you'll be getting Zetas only with fleet tokens after that. Don't make the mistake that other people do and like buy like weird stuff in there. Don't buy Omegas. No, just buy Zetas. Zetas are a crunch. I've still not 100% Zetas. I probably never will, but definitely buy Zetas with fleet arena tokens. Anyways, and then the last one that we have on this list is the error currency, which we already covered. If you need Relic 10, that's the Coaxial Servomotors. But if you're at a different stage in the game and you're not doing that, then you're definitely going to want to buy those Aurodium Lightspeed tokens to get that Relic 5 character. But again, it might take a while to save up to those, but save it up if you can. I don't know if you can save it up yet. They haven't really been too clear on whether era currency changes in. The mats and the era level currency does switch over to credits, but I'm not sure about the era currency. Time will tell. Anyways, okay, so now that we've covered all those currencies, there are some other currencies like fleet credits, normal credits. That's like stuff that you would spend on mods for the most part. It's not really related to the relics and stuff, but that's where you'd spend that. The Galactic War tokens, the Squad Arena tokens, you're going to buy shards that you need. After that, it's just shard shop currency. And then shard shop currency is also missing here, but that's because a lot of people spend it on datacrons these days. If you're not spending it on datacrons, then you're probably saving it for GL tickets. And then if you're really not spending it on that either, then you might buy some purple gear. But again, it's not really related to relics, and the need for gear is kind of going away depending on how you play the game. So that's why it's not on the list. That's not really important to me. So I don't think it's important to anybody else at this point either. But yeah, if you really want a guide on how to spend all the extraneous stuff and how to efficiently farm mods and things like that, go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. I'll make another graphic. Anyways, moving on to the energy. So this is a one caveat that's kind of not here, and that's because people don't really like it. I kind of do, but now the game has changed, right? So before the droid brains were scavengeable with the Jawa, not the Java, I was using normal energy to farm light side node 1D. Go ahead and show you that in game real quick. It is this one. Oh gosh, I click on Coliseum trying to go for light side battles every time now. Light side 1D gives you a ton of furnaces. You can drop up to 6 normally, not during double drops. And then it also gives you a bunch of gear that you can transition into carbonite circuit boards as well. So farming that every day, not using normal energy refreshes, just your normal energy in uptake, I got up to 4,000 carbonite circuit boards, and as you can see, like 30,000 furnaces lying in wait. Just to give an idea of what that is, that's 2,700 carbonite circuit boards in storage, essentially. But basically, if you're really low on carbonite circuit boards, kind of what I recommend is just taking a month off from farming Chirotechs on 7B. and just going over there. We need less Chirotechs now because of the gear thing being done with air levels, but we also need it for arrow magnifiers and droid brains now. So it's kind of a catch-22. But at the same time, if you need carbonite circuit boards, you need carbonite circuit boards. If you're not going to buy them here, you're just going to buy them with crystals. So it's all a balancing act, right? So if you absolutely need carbonite circuit boards and you don't want to spend crystals, you don't have the crystals to spend on that, go ahead and get them through normal energy for a little bit. Just take a month off and farm carbonite circuit boards. You'll still get your carbonite or your Chirotechs from other sources like Zepho, territory battles in general. Chirotechs come in through the daily shipments. Like, we're going to have so many Chirotechs now that we don't need them for air level characters. Anyways, so then the second place, which would be 7B, Lightside 7B, which I just showed you, that's going to go ahead and get you Chirotechs, but it's also going to give you an MK5 green piece, an MK5 data pad, which transfers into bronzium. So you're kind of double dutying there. You're getting droid brains, arrow magnifiers, and also bronzium wirings by spending your normal energy on 7B, Lightside 7B. Dark side, if you really need battle comps, don't farm. I don't think you should farm battle comps through normal energy. It's not worth it. Go ahead and get them from, prioritize farming them with guild currency. Fleet tokens, again, as I said before, farm the shards that you need. And after you're done with the shards, because I know there's like a lot of pirates and fleets right now, I'm just getting done with them. But after that, and you don't have anything to farm shard wise, then go ahead and spend your fleet energy on gear to keypad salvage, which is again those furnaces, the Mk12 stun guns, and Mk12 data pads. Okay, that's pretty much, you're just permanently on farm after the shards with that. Then Cantina, obviously, if you could have guessed, Cantina Energy is exclusively signal data unless there's a shard farm, a character that you need to farm. I just got done with Silvo. You're going to be farming fragmented signal data, flawed signal data, and incomplete signal data in that order. Fragmented signal data is really plentiful to get. You can get that very easily. Flawed signal data is very hard to get, but when it all comes out and the drop rates are all calculated, incomplete signal data is the hardest to get. It drops the lowest actually compared to how much it's worth crystal wise. So it's actually more if you're going to spend crystals on signal data, the one you want to buy is incomplete signal data. Therefore, you would farm those two first. And same thing with the episode currencies I was covering earlier, or the data cards. Get the incomplete signal data first because it's technically the hardest to farm value wise. So, but anyways, it's going to be as you need it. You're going to go ahead and get all three of these. So I think that just about covers everything that I had to cover for the farm guide. This graphic is going to be in the description down below. Please feel free to download it, share it with your friends, share it with your Discord server, share it wherever you want to. I hope it helps you a great deal. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to comment down below and ask them to me. And yeah, that's all I got. If you got value out of this video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want more content like this, and hit the notification bell so you know when it all goes live. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye.